Previously in this series,
only in a circle is the beginning, the end, the first, the last. Okay?
No, you didn't just do that.
You can't have the alpha and omega at the same point in a straight line. You can only have that in a circle, which would suggest that no matter how far we have moved from his purpose, he's going to bring it right back to exactly what he intended.
I know you like this part of this video series, but you're going to love the entire thing. I invite you to go back and watch the entire thing in sequential order. So if you're jumping in the middle somewhere, go back, watch the first video, then the second, then the third. Like, watch these videos in sequential order. They will bless you beyond measure.
All right? And that is why...
Does the king know you're over here showing out like this? That's what I want to know.
We can't say anything. Hush, hush.
Okay.
He's
okay.
new. He's
new.
Now.
And you've been doing this for a while.
Yeah. So this is why there are striking similarities between the books of Genesis and Revelation. Genesis being the first book of the Bible, Revelation being the last book of the Bible. You will find that there are things which disappear in Genesis as a consequence of Adam's fall that reappear in Revelation as a consequence of Christ's victory.
Come on here.
So this tree of life, it disappears in Genesis.
Yes, sir.
But it reappears in Revelation. Okay? The garden, the river, God dwelling with men in the cool of the day, that all disappears in the Genesis, but it reappears in Revelation. Likewise, there are things which appear in the world in Genesis as a consequence of the fall. They disappear in Revelation as a consequence of the victory.
Come on here.
Right? So sin appears in Genesis. Death appears in Genesis. Disease appears in Genesis. Poverty appears in Genesis. Even the division, the divisiveness, the division of all appears in Genesis. When you get to Revelation, there are 7 things which shall be no more. They are the 7 things that were consequences of the fall. So God is going to bring it. He's going to get what he wanted in the beginning.
I tried to warn y'all. Y'all ain't ready. Y'all ain't ready. I tried to warn. I ain't ready. What?
Yeah, so the reality is, best thing I could do is take my plans and align them with his purpose.
Go ahead.
Because he's going to get what he wanted. And if I want to understand what he wanted, I have to go back to the beginning. I have to start in the Genesis because he's standing by his original intent.
Go ahead.
And this is why, this is another confusing issue, right? Jesus said, the Son of Man has come to seek and to save that which was lost, not simply those who were lost. In other words, I have come to fully restore everything that was lost as a consequence of the fall. Okay? So you have to understand the original intent to understand what Jesus was actually doing. So can I go to some original intent?
Well, let's talk about some original intent.
Okay.
Because those copy intents ain't it. The original intent, that's the one.
Yeah. So originally, the earth was made to be an extension of heaven or a colony of heaven governed by people who are governed by God.
Come on, say that one more time.
The earth was originally meant to be an extension and a colony of heaven. And I think you understand what I mean by a colony, meaning that the culture of heaven would be visible and evident and present in the earth. The atmosphere of heaven would be visible and present in the earth, and the government of heaven would be the presiding government of the earth. So the earth would be an extension of heaven, a colony of heaven that is governed by people who are governed by God. So fundamentally, God made everything in the world for Adam, but he made Adam for himself. And he effectively says, Adam, you can have all of this so long as I can have all of you.
Go ahead. Why you know it's early, don't you? You trying to act like it's afternoon.
No, I started with a protein shake. It's a protein shake, man. I'm wired. So this is why what God made, you know, you'll look at vegetation, animals, everything has within itself the capability of reproducing itself, but only after its kind. So man, okay, was the God kind. All right? Because he is not in the animal class. Now, I'm going to confess to you, I have met some people. And I thought to myself, maybe Darwin had a point. You know? Maybe there was a common ancestor, you know. But fundamentally, there is a distinction, a huge difference between human beings and animal kind. You're not going to see it in our biology, right? You're going to see it in our insatiable appetite to create and our limitless capacity to create. We, unlike any other creature, have an insatiable appetite to create. And we have a limitless capacity to create, so that no matter how much the monkey looks like a man or the man looks like a monkey, the monkey doesn't have a chance in 1 billion years of ever making this cup. Right?
Go ahead.
And this in the hierarchy of value is relatively low. A monkey has no chance of ever manufacturing this cup. It's us that have this insatiable appetite to create.
Bishop, if I may interject.
Yes.
You're running my blood pressure up over here. You guys, I'm gonna give you a chance to pump the brakes and drink some of that protein shake. So interestingly enough, when you started talking about the difference between man and animals, you talked about heaven, God made everything for Adam, but God had made Adam for himself. God created 3 categories in creation. He created creation, the sun, the moon, the stars, the planets, the trees, the grass, the water. He created creatures, the dogs, the cats, the giraffes, the alligators, and then he created creators, man. Now, here's what's really interesting. If you look at the difference between, in Hebrew, in the Hebrew, the etymology of Hebrew, if you look at the difference between an animal that God created and the man that God created, the animal that God created is called a bahema, which means in it is what it is. In, hey, what? I mean, bahema, bahema, in it is what it is. In other words, what you see is what you get. A horse is a horse is a horse, of course.
Wow.
Right? But the word for man is the word Adam, Aleph, Daled, Mem. The letter Aleph represents God. See, a beast doesn't have an Aleph in it. It doesn't have God likeness in it, right? A beast doesn't have that, but man has God likeness in him. Aleph, Daled, Mem. What's Daled, Mem? Daled, Mem spells dome, which is what? Blood. And the life of the flesh is in the blood. So what is a man? A man is a godlike creation, creature, creator, creative, a godlike creative with flesh and blood. That's the difference between a man and an animal. Yeah. And the reason, like, oh man, you got to get me all worked up here. I need to pump the brakes. But what's interesting to me is when God created everything. If we look at, you talked about original intent. God's original intent that we see what God did. He made us like him. The thing he made was, first thing he did was he created.
Yeah.
Right? So that's the first thing. He had creation. And so after he created the creation and the creatures, he had this creation, but he didn't have anything to connect with.
Right.
So what did he do? He created man for connection.
Yeah.
He created somebody who was like him, but not him, that he could connect with. And then man sinned and severed that connection.
Yeah.
And then God did the final point, that final part of this whole creation kingdom process, which is he contributed by giving his son to die on the cross for our sin. And so just like God, when we see his whole purpose, original intent, creation, connection, and contribution, that's why human beings, see, an animal is perfectly fine not creating,
Yeah.
not connecting,
Perfectly fine.
and not contributing. But human beings can only be fulfilled when we are creating, connecting,
Contributing.
and contributing. So anyway, that's what I thought of when you were talking about that.
Man, that is so powerful, and that's it, right?